Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video. I hope you guys are doing well and these videos are able to help you learn the basic requirements for you to start with Helm. So in our last video, we talked about our Helm charts. We talked about what are Helm charts and what are the files which are required for you to start with using Helm. We talked about charts.yaml, we talked about the values.yaml, and we also talked about the files or which you would create in the templates folder. And using all of these files, we also talked about how we can create our first Helm charts in which we actually deployed a Kubernetes namespace using Helm. If you are new to this video, I will share you our first Helm charts deployment video in the description section. So in today's video, we will be talking about what are the basic commands which are available for us in Helm. In our last video, we also had a glimpse of how do we run our first Helm, and using our Helm Install command, we actually did our namespace deployment. But before getting into details of that, we would actually try to see what are the Helm charts which are currently available for us in our particular machine. So you can see currently we just have two charts which are deployed and which would be having respective Kubernetes services running as part of this Helm chart deployment. So on today's video, the whole attention or the focus would be us to get familiar on the basic Helm commands which are available. So let's get started with that. So the first command which we would be learning about is Helm list or Helm ls. Now Helm ls or Helm list, it basically lists out all the available charts which is running on your system. So if I do an Helm ls or if I do a Helm list, it will print you or give you back the same output which is expected. So this was our first command of Helm list or Helm ls to list out all the available running charts on your server or the machine. So currently you would see in our last video we actually did our namespace deployment into the chart which we created was first ns. So we'll try to do the same thing. So we already have the same files which we have created where we would be trying to create a namespace, but we'll be just interacting with all the commands which are available in Helm. So in order to start with the Helm deployment, we saw that Helm Install was the first command, or basically it deploys your chart. So Helm Install command actually takes in two parameters precisely, where you specify the chart name. The chart name is actually whatever name shows when you run a Helm list or a Helm ls. So you need to provide Helm install the chart name which you want to be recognized for your Kubernetes service or artifacts deployment. So I will be keeping the name as same, which would be my first ns. Now the second parameter which you need to specify is the path. The paths actually signifies that from where your Helm should take all the configurations files and use that for your deployment purpose. So currently, if you will see, I'm already in the location where I have the configuration files for my Helm deployment. So I can simply specify dot, which signifies as the current folder on a Linux based system, and then I could simply do a enter, which would deploy my namespace. But before doing that, I just want to make sure that what all configurations would actually be deployed. So we saw a glimpse of an option called --try run, which just only prints out the configuration which would be actually used in your deployment. So if I run this, so you would be able to see the actual configuration which would be getting deployed, but it won't be the actual deployment. So you can see then the names of the chart would be something like this. So this is something which is related to all of your Helm related stuff. That is, I would call this as the metadata. And if you see the current status, it shows as pending install, which means it is not actually installed or deployed right now, but it is still in the pending phase. And you will see that this would be the artifact which would be deployed, which is currently using the namespace.yaml file. And the configurations for this namespace.yaml file would be that it would be creating a namespace, because the kind has been specified as namespace with the name of first ns, and these would be the labels which would be added to the created namespace. So if I do a Helm list again, you won't see currently that we would be having a chart with the name of first ns, because I had provided the option called -dry run. So that was the whole purpose of using dry run as a parameter with Helm Install command. Now, if you want, let's start with an actual deployment. So to do that, I will be just removing the -dry run command and execute it. So you would be seeing just in a while that now the Helm's metadata which got printed, now it shows as status as deployed. Now let's verify it. So we'll run the same command again, which would be helm ls. And now you see, now we have another chart created with the name which we have specified in our command of Helm Install, and it shows us all the related informations. Great. So that was all about Helm Install and its required parameters. Now let's say one another used case could be like, I don't know the current location, or basically I know the current location but I am on a different path. So let me just go back one folder and I will show you that Helm is the folder which I have for where I have the configuration files, but I am actually one folder back, which would show you having the Helm folder over here, which is this one. Great. So what I will be doing is just to do a Helm install, so to specify that I could actually provide a path in my Helm install command, I'll be first uninstalling the chart which I have deployed. So to do that, we'll be seeing uninstall in details in a while, but to show you the path providing parameter to the Helm install, I'll be doing the installation first so that it appears to be a fresh installation. Great. So I do a Helm ls. So now we shouldn't have anything with the first ls chart. Great. So that's gone. Now if I do a Helm install again, first ls is the parameter, and I do Helm as the path where it has to take up the configuration files. So let's see what happens. So great, it got deployed successfully. And now let's do a Helm list again to verify our available charts. So great, so we again have the first ns created with the revision of 1 because it is a fresh deployment. So I'll be going back again to the Helm folder. Great. So that was all about Helm install. Now let's say another use case could be if you would describe the namespace which we have created. So in order to get the namespace, you can actually get it in your values.yaml file. So the namespace name would be first ns. Now we could do a kubectl describe ns first ns. Great. So ns actually signifies namespace, and we are trying to describe this particular namespace which you have created. So in the label section, we could see all the parameters which were specified in the namespace.yaml have been added in our deployment. Great. Now, suppose you want to change any of the label or add a new label to your namespace. Correct? So if I want to do that, I'll be making a change in the namespace.yaml file. So let's say I want to, if I add, let's say I'll be taking this case where I have this typo. I will be replacing It says third label and label 3. The values I'm keeping it same, but let's do this. Great. So I have made a change in my templates and namespace YAML file, where earlier you see that the current label which shows in the namespace, that is, it's a typo, but I have changed it. Now I just want to get this change reflected in my namespaces metadata or the labels. So there is a command called Helm Upgrade. So Helm Upgrade actually takes into account only the changes which you have done to your configuration files, and it will reflect it back on the entity which you are trying to deploy. So let's say if I had more files in my template folders, if I had a pod or a deployment, and if there were changes done on those as well, those changes would also be reflected. So let's see how Helm Upgrade works. So the basic command would be Helm Upgrade. Now again, this also takes in some parameters, like the upgrade should know that which chart has to be considered while making this change. So you remember that we have a chart with the name of first NS. So we want to signify that the change which has been done are in the files which are related with this particular chart. So we'll just provide a first NS. So it says, okay, we also need to provide the path. So I will be just doing that since I'm already in the folder. So I'll just give a dot. So great. Now I do a Helm ls. Now you see, now the revision count has also been changed to 2, because it first one being our typo error scenario, and the second one where we reflected the changes. Now let's see whether the changes are actually done in our namespace or not. So I'll be doing kubectl describe ns first ns. Great. So you see that this is the change which we have done in our namespace.yaml file, and it actually gets reflected now. So just to show you that earlier it was thord label, and now since we corrected the typo, now it is third label, which is with the correct spell. Awesome. Now we learned about Helm ls, we learned about Helm Install with and without the option of dry run. We also saw on how we can make our changes reflected on the entities which we are deploying using the command Helm Upgrade. Now we also want to see that suppose our chart, which we are interested in, how many times the change has been done on that particular chart. So there's a command called Helm history, and history, sorry for typo, and we again also need to provide the chart name. So we do a first S. Awesome. So you can see that we have 2 revisions, one with the typo error, another with a typo fix, and you can also see the descriptions what were added. Like for initially we ran a Helm install to get started with our deployment, and then we did an upgrade where we fixed our issue, and that's why it shows 2 revisions along with descriptions. And let's try to create one more scenario with one more change where I want to add something. So I'll be editing my namespace YAML file again, and let me create a 4th label. Fourth label. Label could be anything, right? So let me create it as first test label, and the value let it to be test-1. Great. So let's do it again. Upgrade first ns and the dot. Awesome. So it should also be done very soon. Now let's just wait. Great. So let's just verify all of these things. So Helm ls, the revision should be 3 now. Awesome. Let's verify it on the namespace. kubectl describe first ns. So I see that this is the label which I added currently. First is label, that is also being reflected now. And if I do a Helm history of first NS, it should also again shows that revision should be 3, and now it has 2 upgrades and 1 install. Now, okay, one more scenario which I could possibly think of is I want to remove this newly added label. I don't want that. I don't want it to be having it in my configuration, and I just want to get it over. Now, one easy way could be, not easy, but the first thing which would pop in someone's head would be to change the configuration file and just get this removed, and then you would be able to get it done, the basic requirement which you are hoping for. Another thing what Helm has is called Helm rollback. Now remember that the second revision does not contain this label. This label has been added as part of our third revision, and that's why it is being reflected. And since the current revision of the Helm chart first NS is 3, that's why we have this change. Now what does Helm rollback do is you can move back to a certain revision of Helm chart based on your requirement without actually making changes on the configuration files. Now how do we get this done? So we do a Helm rollback. Again, you need to specify the chart name. So first NS and the revision where you want to jump. So I want to jump on the second revision because remember I don't have this label in my second revision. So I'll just simply specify the revision number. So I can just do simple enter, where I have passed 2 parameters, rollback, the chart name, and the revision I want to jump. Awesome. So it says rollback was successful. Happy. This is a default message which comes back from Helm. So now let's verify again, right? So Helm ls. Awesome. So you again see now the revision count will definitely be 4 because this is the 4th time which we are trying to make a change on the chart which we have created. But the fun part, what you would be seeing is if you do a Helm history on the first NS chart name, now when you see description, now the description actually holds your intention, I would say. The actual work which was done, where it reflects that at the 4th revision there was a rollback which was done onto the second revision. That is what we actually wanted. Now the most important thing what we need to look up is whether that particular label is actually removed or not, and let's verify that. Yeah, so what we need to do is we need to do kubectl describe first NS. Awesome, let's look for that. Great. So I don't see that particular label which we had added. It's called first S label. I don't see that. Awesome. So that was the whole idea of doing a Helm rollback, where you try to move to a certain revision which does not contain the probable changes which you don't want to add it onto your particular revision or onto your chart. Now let's say I do again the next command basically holds the idea of I don't want any of this. I want my chart to be done. I'm done with the deployment. I'm done with the service, and there's no point of keeping a service running if nobody is using it. Great. So there is something called Helm uninstall, which actually gets rid of everything. So remember, like while trying to tell you about Helm install and Helm upgrade, we actually use that Helm uninstall command. So we'll be doing the same. So that was the whole intention. It actually stops your chart and removes it from your chart section. So you won't be able to list your chart when you do a Helm ls. So let's try to jump onto that command execution. So we do a Helm uninstall, and you need to specify the chart name, because obviously you need to let Helm know that which chart needs to be closed, ended. So we do a first ls and enter. see what happens. Great. So release first, then it's uninstalled. Let's verify again. Helm ls. So the first NS is gone, and hopefully the namespace which we had created, it should also be gone. Let's do this. HTML desk ns. Should say no resource found. Great. So it says not found. There is nothing over here. It says these are all warnings, so you can just ignore them. But it actually says error from server not found. Namespaces first is not found. Great. So that was the whole intention of using uninstall, where it actually removes, not deploys, removes your entity which you are actually deploying and gets it closed. So these were the basic commands which we actually use very often while working with Helm. So I'll just try to recap all the things which we just saw. So we talked about Helm ls, which is actually using for listing all the running charts on your machine. We talked about Helm Install. So Helm Install actually takes in two parameters, where it takes it your chart name, which would be something like this, and the path, which has your configuration files. And here you can specify an option called -f and just to check on the specifications which will be actually being used for a deployment purpose. And if you remove the -run, it will do the actual deployment. We also learned about Helm Upgrade. Now Helm Upgrade is used primarily to get your on-the-fly changes, but you need to actually get it executed. You need to specify the Helm Upgrade command with two parameters, where you need to specify your same chart name which you would be having used while running your Helm Install command, and then the path, which actually contains your changed files. Then we also talked about Helm History, which will tell you about all the details, or basically all the iterations, whatever would have happened on your Helm chart while deployment. It shows your revision and what is the action which is performed while getting your changes done. So you can see in the chart which we deployed, we had install, because we started with that, and we did two upgrades along with the rollback to a certain revision. Now talking about rollback, or basically the Helm rollback, is used to move to a certain revision which may or may not contain the changes which you are expecting, or which you don't want to be added on your latest deployed revision. And finally, we talked about how to close our chart and how to get rid of it using Helm uninstall followed by the chart name. So that was all about the video. I hope you liked it, and in the next video we will be talking about what are the flows control in Helm. Flows control means different looping sections. How do we variabilize a certain parameters in our charts, and how we could iterate over multiple sections or multiple key value pairs from our values.yaml in our configuration files, which are defined in the templates folder. Please do like, share and subscribe to my video or the channel. And if you have any certain questions, feel free to add it on the comment section. Thank you.